All right, guys. So we got to talk about Twitter Files Part 7, which basically details how the FBI acted before the 2020 election to basically stage a coup. And I'm not saying that lightly. Like, that's exactly what it is, right? That's the main takeaway. The FBI straight up tried to basically influence the outcome of the 2020 election in their efforts to censor the Hunter Biden story and to discredit it as Russian disinformation, even though they knew that it was not Russian disinformation. They had the laptop in their possession for quite some time, okay, before the New York Post story came out. However, they went out of their way to try to tell people, to tell these social media platforms that, hey, you guys need to be on the lookout. There's going to be some Russian disinformation. There's going to be a hack and dump, right, related to Hunter Biden. Don't fall for it, right? Don't fall for it. You got to censor it. And the efforts that the FBI went through to try to influence and control these companies is absolutely insane. I mean, these companies basically became an arm of the government, at least Twitter. I mean, we all know what's happening to all these companies, but Twitter became an arm of the FBI, right? And the FBI successfully weaponized Twitter to influence the outcome of the 2020 election. What do you call that? Because the left calls January 6th a coup, right? If January 6th is a coup, what do you call this? A government entity that is actively working to influence the outcome of an election. I think that's a coup, right? And that is what is detailed here in Twitter Files Part 7. And we're not going to go through all of it because there's a whole lot of information. We're going to focus mostly on the part that happened before the Hunter Biden laptop story and the efforts that they went through to try to influence Twitter and to censor this story. Because, again, some of this stuff is just absolutely comical here from the FBI. But people should be concerned about this. Like, this is the actual real threat to democracy or the real threat to the republic, whatever you want to call it. This is the real threat. So let's read a little bit here. Independent writer Michael Schellenberger released Part 7 on the Twitter Files on Monday, delving into how the FBI and intelligence community, quote, discredited factual information about Hunter Biden's foreign business dealings. The lengthy Twitter thread reveals what Schellenberg calls an influence campaign by the FBI that eventually worked when Twitter censored Hunter Biden's scandalous laptop. Quote, in Twitter Files 7, we present evidence pointing to an organized efforts by representatives of the intelligence community aimed at senior executives at news and social media companies to discredit leaked information about Hunter Biden before and after it was published. He continued. The story begins in October 2019 when a Delaware computer store owner named John Paul Mac Isaac contacts the FBI about a laptop that Hunter Biden had left with him on December 9th, 2019. The FBI issues a subpoena for and takes Hunter Biden's laptop. So again, the FBI had possession of the laptop. I want you guys to understand that because, again, that is the context of what we're about to see here. And this is what makes this so bad. Quote, it is important to understand that Hunter Biden earned tens of millions of dollars in contracts with foreign businesses, including ones linked to China's government, for which Hunter offered no real work, Schellenberger wrote. During all of 2020, the FBI and other law enforcement agencies repeatedly primed Yoel Roth to dismiss reports of Hunter Biden's laptop as a Russian hack and leak operation. He wrote, screenshotted a sworn declaration by Roth discussing years of weekly meetings, warning of such an operation happening right before the 2020 election. So the FBI knew that this would probably get leaked before the 2020 election. And they knew that it wasn't Russian disinformation because they had the laptop. But despite that, they said, you know what, we're going to tell these social media platforms that it's Russian disinformation. Again, what do you call that? Right? What are we supposed to call that? Yeah, all those calls to defund the FBI, I think those calls are legitimate. And I think that they kind of make sense considering that this is what they're doing. Schellenberger noted that Meta CEO Mark Zuckerberg once said the FBI approached Facebook and also warned of Russian propaganda ahead of the 2022 election. I think that's a typo from Fox News. I think that actually should say 2020 election. Quote, were the FBI warnings of a Russian hack and leak operation relating to Hunter Biden based on any new intel? No, they weren't, Schellenberger wrote in a tweet sharing comments from FBI agent Elvis Chan. Quote, through our investigations, we did not see any similar competing intrusions to what had happened in 2016, Chan wrote. Yeah, so they knew, right? They knew that there was nothing to that, right? They knew there was no Russian interference here. Okay, they knew it, but they claimed it anyways. Well, again, why is that? Why would they do that? It's because they wanted to influence. They didn't want this to influence the outcome, right? They did not want Biden to potentially lose because he is being influenced by China and foreign governments. Schellenberger also noted that Twitter executives, quote, repeatedly indicated that there was very little Russian activity on the platform. So Twitter executives knew that as well too. Everybody knew it, right? Everybody knew it. Schellenberger wrote that Twitter even debunked false claims by journalists of foreign interference on its platform, including polarizing NBC News reporter Ben Collins, who reported white nationalists posing as Antifa called for violence on Twitter. Quote, we haven't seen any evidence to support that claim, former Twitter executive Yoel Roth wrote to Chan on June 2nd, 2020. Wow. Quote, it's not the first time that Twitter's Roth has pushed back against the FBI. In January 2020, Roth resisted FBI efforts to get Twitter to share data outside of the normal search warrant process, Schellenberger wrote before, noting, quote, pressure had been growing and sharing an email in which a Twitter executive told Roth the intelligence community wanted the company to share information and change API policies. So they wanted to run the company, right? The FBI wanted to run Twitter. Quote, they are probing and pushing everywhere they can, including by whispering to congressional staff, Twitter's director of policy and philanthropy wrote. Quote, time and time again, FBI asked Twitter for evidence of foreign influence, and Twitter responds that they aren't finding anything worth reporting, Schellenberger wrote. Despite Twitter's pushback, the FBI repeatedly requests information from Twitter that Twitter has already made clear it will not share outside of normal legal channels. So the FBI was basically begging Twitter for some evidence, right? Give us some evidence that this is Russian interference. Please give us some evidence, right? We need it. I mean, it's insane, man. I mean, again, it's something that should infuriate people because you also were censored from making claims about the 2020 election. However, if you consider everything that we've learned from these Twitter files about the FBI's influence on Twitter, okay, especially when it comes to the Hunter Biden story, I don't think it's unreasonable for people to have questions about the 2020 election. To say, you know what, maybe the 2020 election has an asterisk, right? Considering all of these things that happened, okay? Considering what we know. Because I personally believe that if the mainstream liberal media and social media had not censored the Hunter Biden story, if they had covered it like they should have covered it, I believe that that would have influenced some voters, okay? I think a lot of people probably say, you know, I can't vote for Biden knowing that he's tied this closely to foreign governments like China. I think that it actually would have affected the outcome. And I think that the FBI knew that. Everybody knew that. That was aware of this story, and that's why they went out of their way to suppress it and to say, well, it's Russian disinformation. Again, it's amazing how the so-called, you know, misinformation / disinformation crusaders, they're the main people out here pushing the most misinformation / disinformation that we've ever seen. They're putting it out there. They're pushing it the most. They're putting out the most propaganda, and that's why it is so dangerous to have the government involved in censorship. The government trying to censor things on private platforms. It's dangerous because the government always has an agenda. The government is rarely going to tell you the truth, right? They're rarely going to tell you the truth. Most of the stuff they're telling you is a lie, okay? There's always some alternative purpose, some alternative motive. I mean, when it became clear that we were lied to about the war in Iraq, I mean, considering all the things that happened too before the war in Iraq that we know we were lied about too, but I'm just saying, you know, they lied about the most recent war that we've been in, right? Big war. I mean, they just straight up said that, oh, Saddam had weapons of mass destruction. Wasn't true. But it was used to justify a war that, you know, ultimately turned out to be a disaster, right? And it created more enemies for us. It made it tougher for us. It's very well possible that the same thing is going on in Ukraine. I mean, we kind of know there's a whole lot of misinformation / disinformation being put out about that, what's going on over there with Ukraine and Russia. And look at the censorship efforts, right? Look at the censorship efforts from all the big tech, from the media. It tells you that what you're being told, what you're being fed is not true. It's a lie. Because otherwise, if it was true, then there's no need for the censorship, right? There's no need for it. But hey, this is the world we're living in. Quote, then in July 2020, the FBI's Elvis Chan arranges for temporary top secret security clearances for Twitter executives so that the FBI can share information about threats to the upcoming elections, Schellenberger wrote, proving email evidence. On August 11, 2020, the FBI's Chan shares information with Twitter's Roth relating to the Russian hacking organization APT28 through the FBI secure one-way communications channel, teleporter, Schellenberger wrote. Roth recently said during an interview that the Hunter Biden laptop set off his finely tuned APT28 hack and leap campaign alarm bells. Schellenberger provided a video of Roth's comments in the 24th portion of the lengthy thread. Yeah, so they brainwashed Roth, right? That's what they did. They ran a whole misinformation/disinformation campaign on Roth, right? On Yoel Roth, they went after him and they brainwashed him to make him think that, oh, you got to be on the lookout. You got to be on the lookout for Russian interference. And again, as soon as that Hunter Biden story comes out, you can see how that influenced Roth in his thinking because the FBI had already programmed him to think that way. Again, this is the level that the deep state is operating at, guys. This is the level they're operating on. This is what we're dealing with here. So the rest of this, these Twitter files basically talks about Jim Baker, the guy that used to work at the FBI, who worked at Twitter now, before he got fired by Elon Musk, about how he got involved in the Hunter Biden laptop story. And the FBI basically had an alumni at Twitter, okay, and some of these social media companies where, you know, it was like a frat, right? Oh, you worked at the FBI? All right, cool. We all gonna work together and we're gonna work on behalf of the FBI to try to influence his platform. The FBI literally had agents implanted into these platforms, right? Working on their behalf. Wow. Yeah, I mean, Twitter, again, it became an arm of the government. I mean, seriously. You know, that's what happened. That's what happened. And again, it's just funny how all these leftists say, Twitter's a private company, can do whatever it wants. Nah, apparently not. Apparently not. Now when you got the FBI involved. So, I mean, look, it's like all these stories, man. A lot of this stuff we already knew. We already knew it was happening. We just have concrete evidence and proof that it's happening. The question is what is anybody going to do about it? Right? What is anybody going to do about it? That is the question. Considering how these people are in charge, the DOJ, the FBI, of, you know, prosecuting and going after people who do this type of stuff, I wouldn't really get my hopes up that anybody will be punished for this. I'm just saying. Let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.